In early April of 2022, Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett tweeted about the country's latest line in military defense, calling it a game changer. Bennett went on to state that the country's military defense system might sound like science fiction, but was indeed a reality. When a world leader, particularly one with access to nuclear weaponry, makes a statement like that, it's bound to ring alarms all over the world. So, what is Bennett's pride and joy? Israel's high-powered, ground-based laser interceptor system. Dubbed the Iron Beam, the laser interceptor system is designed to complement a series of aerial defense systems, most notably the country's Iron Dome. The mobile all-weather military system became one of the world's most advanced air defense weaponry. The Iron Dome was designed by Israel Aerospace Industries and Rafael Advanced Defense Systems. The Iron Dome holds the capacity to intercept rockets and artillery shells fired from 4 to 70 kilometers. To date, the Iron Dome has intercepted well over 1,500 rockets being launched onto the mainland. But Israel's air defense doesn't solely depend on the Iron Dome. In fact, the Iron Dome is one of 4 elements in Israel's integrated air defense systems, along with Arrow 2, Arrow 3, and David's Sling. And now, the 5th element, the Iron Beam. In April of 2022, Benny Gantz, Israel's defense minister, released a statement that the Iron Beam had successfully concluded testing and would be made available to use by the Israeli army. Gantz referred to the Iron Beam as a global breakthrough, but Seth Franzman, a Jerusalem-based analyst, argued that the laser interceptor wasn't a breakthrough yet. Franzman, author of Drone Wars Pioneers, Killing Machines, Artificial Intelligence, and the Battle for the Future, was particularly skeptical of the Iron Beam's long-term endurance. Notwithstanding the obvious benefits of laser interceptors, reduced costs, and better aim, Franzman pointed out that laser technology had been excessively studied by several global militaries, but the technology had rarely yielded promising results. The Israeli military began conducting its research on laser weaponry back in the mid-70s. Lasers had been introduced back in 1958, and within a few years of its discoveries, the world began to study its possible use as a defense tool. The first country to toy with the idea was the United States, but it didn't take for long. While the US and several other countries took their turns at incorporating laser technology into their weapon system, no country went beyond a few tests and stacks of papers. General Pinchas Buchrist flew to the United States over 15 years ago to examine their military's laser-based interception systems, particularly the Nautilus. However, the Defense Military Director General concluded that chemical-based interceptors would be unfeasible in terms of both cost and use. Israel therefore conducted its own research, designed the weapon, and has announced that the Iron Beam will become operational within a few months. Their laser technology was based on fiber lasers that were flexible, easy to operate, and economically feasible for the country. Does Israel need a 5th element in its air defense system? According to statistics, the country faces military conflict once every 9 weeks. A quarter of the country's budget is dedicated towards military defense. Essentially, Israel lives on the front line. The country partook its first war a day after declaring independence. The Arab-Israeli War began after the end of the British Mandate for Palestine in 1948, with Israel having been declared as an independent state a day earlier. On the 15th of May, a military coalition of Arab states waged a war against the newly formed state. The War of 1948 is often regarded as the first war. Israel has had to partake in 9 full-scale wars since 1948. Light Shield, or the Iron Beam, was unveiled at the Singapore Air Show in February of 2014. The laser system is a collaborative effort by Rafael and Elbit, defense system manufacturers that have made significant contributions for the Israeli army. Iron Beam was designed to intercept rockets, mortar bombs, and artillery at shorter ranges. While the Iron Dome has been largely successful in intercepting rockets, it can only aptly do so if the rockets are at long range. The Iron Beam can effectively intercept projectiles at shorter ranges. That is, within a 7-kilometer radius. Gantz's announcement was accompanied with a short video showing the aerial laser systems testing conducted in June of 2021. The clip features the Iron Beam lighting up the sky with a singular laser beam, which sends a drone spiraling towards the ground. Developed by Rafael, funded by the Military of Defense, and underwritten by the United States, Iron Beam is the product of 5 years' worth of research and development in solid-state lasers. The system consists of a mobile battery with an air defense radar and a command control unit. The Iron Beam makes use of 2 high-energy laser systems with approximately 100 to 150 kilowatts of power. Does the Israeli military have something phenomenal in their hands? Yes. The Iron Beam is not only the latest technological advancement in fiber laser technology, but is also an innovative part of any country's defense system, especially a country that is constantly on the brink of war. Iron Beam employs the use of fiber lasers to destroy any airborne targets within 5 seconds. The laser has a firing range within a 7-kilometer radius. For now, the system hasn't officially been integrated into the country's line of air defense. If it does, it will become the 5th element. But the Iron Beam holds the potential to operate as a standalone system as well. The radar of the surveillance system detects a threat that is tracked by vehicle platforms. This prompts the laser to engage. The Iron Beam is a direct energy weapon. Simply put, a direct energy weapon takes minimal time to charge and load between operations and has a significantly reduced operational cost. How significant are we talking about? We'd have to take a look back here. Bennett's announcement of the Iron Beam came near the anniversary of the 11-day Israel-Gaza war, wherein Hamas launched a total of 4,000 rockets in the mainland. Today, while the war is considered to have subsided, it's far from over. Bennett had previously acknowledged that the Iron Dome's sole setback was its high interception cost. To elaborate, it took militants in Gaza less than a few $100s to construct a rocket and launch it at Israel, but it would take the Iron Dome $80,000 to intercept it. In recent times, air threats towards Israel include crudely made rockets and missiles, plus flammable balloons and kites, all of which would have to be intercepted regardless. That too by a system that takes up thousands of dollars. Unsurprisingly, the Iron Dome's use isn't economically sustainable. However, with a direct energy weapon such as the Iron Beam, the cost would reduce significantly. That is, operational costs for laser beams are less than $3.50 per shot. Gantz has gone on to claim that Israel would be able to construct its very own laser wall within the decade. Not surprisingly, the world has caught on to Israel's boastful claims. The innovative laser system has caught the eye of several world leaders, with several high-ranking officials conducting meetings in Tel Aviv, most televised, and some a bit more privately. Israel has had to spend millions of dollars on defense to protect the country from aerial attacks launched by Gaza and Lebanon, funded by Iranian proxies. Those proxies sit right at the country's borders. Bennett believes that the laser interception system will not only strengthen the country's defense system, but will pave the way for delegations and allyships from several countries. For example, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia have been establishing diplomatic relations with the Jewish state, given their common threat from Iranian proxies. A senior Israeli security official claimed that several delegations had reached out to the country in light of the Iron Beam going public. but the official claims that the country did not have the time to respond to all those who had contacted them at this point. The official went on to state that the country's topmost priority at this stage was to keep its officials safe. But, like Franzmann, the founder and former director of Israel's Missile Defense Organization was skeptical of the Iron Beam. Uzi Rubins stated, rather pessimistically or realistically depending on one's interpretation, that lasers had limitations. The prime setback was weather conditions that would impede visuals, something a laser would rely heavily upon. Notwithstanding Israel's sunny climate, Rubin made note of the fact that climate wasn't bound to stay sunny all year round. Rain and cloud coverage would impede the laser's aim, or its use altogether, notwithstanding the fact that heavy smoke fills the air in case of a missed rocket launch. If the laser misses one target, it'll be deemed useless until the smoke clears up and the enemy not only knows that fact, but will make good use of it. Hezbollah's missiles are more powerful than any of the world's arsenals, besides the world powers. Concurrently, they're also the main threat for Israel's safety. With Israel entering into the laser era, the country's on the turn for establishing a strategic line of defense. The Iron Beam will complement the Iron Dome and become the fifth element in the country's air defense system. Notwithstanding the limitations, the Ministry of Defense is hopeful that the Iron Beam will be effective enough to eventually become integrated for Israel's proposed laser wall. That's all for today's video. Let us know what you have to say about Israel's latest weapon. We'll see you back soon with another video. Until then,